So first thing, going to do a couple of things. First thing, I'm just going to ask Ciaran to explain, as we get to a ballot, how that works, what that process is. We will have in a minute a procedural piece to do to ask for some volunteers to work with us, people to put their name forward to volunteer to be observers in the count of ballots throughout the day, and that'll be a draw from a hat. We'll just pick, so put your name forward, please, if you'd like to help us with that. We'll do that in a second. So Ciaran first, we'll do the ballot we'll do the observers, volunteers, but then we will go to tables. We'll just take stock where everybody's at before we actually take the ballot, in case there's any further suggestions. Is that okay? So I'll ask Ciaran first, maybe just to...
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ciaran Manning. I'm an IT consultant primarily based in Santry in Dublin, but I have a specialism in electoral matters. And as part of that, I provide IT services and electoral training services to most of the country's national returning officers. I run the count centre for the national elections in the Dublin West constituency, so for presidential, Dáil, referendum elections. I've worked on 2 previous citizens' assemblies in this role, just providing advice on the taking and counting of votes. And I do quite a bit of work with various clubs, statutory bodies, societies, credit unions, elections to boards, typically of organisations like that, who require an election to be held and want an independent outside observer to observe that. As I mentioned to one of the tables when I was discussing with them there, I have no expertise whatsoever in the subject matter you're dealing with here. My expertise is purely on how we safely reflect or report on the answers that you provide to the questions. So my job is to make sure that whatever answers you fill in on the ballot paper are correctly recorded, counted and reported. After that, I have no further input on it. So what you do with the answers afterwards, or how you decide on the questions beforehand, is outside my scope. What we will be doing, we will be giving you some time to fill out your answers to each question. In this first case, it's basically a single question with 3 options on it as it currently stands. So you'll be asked to pick one of those and put your ballot paper into one of the 2 ballot boxes up at the front of the room here. When all the votes have been cast, we'll be taking the ballot boxes into a counting area at the back of the room. We will be looking for volunteers from yourselves to act as scrutineers or observers of that process to make sure that you have a view of the process. And we'll select those people shortly, or not select them, we'll ask literally for volunteers, and we'll put names in a hat and pull out 2. We will be, before we cast the ballots, I have removed seals that were on those ballot boxes. Some of you may have noticed me doing that. We would always start each election by showing that the ballot box itself is empty, which we can't do if there's a seal on it. Once we've shown it's empty, we'll seal up the main lid of the box so papers can't be removed. There's a little flap on top of the box that we leave unsealed for the moment so you can post your ballot papers. We'll then seal that at the end, bring the ballots into the back room. And in this case, because it's a very straightforward count, there's 3 options. We will just be taking out the ballot papers, counting them and sorting them into piles for option 1, option 2 and option 3, or in this case, agree, disagree, don't know. And I will then report on how many votes were cast in each of those options. A little later on, if we get into the more detailed breakdown, depending on the result of the first question, we may have to go to a more sophisticated voting method, which is basically the method we use for national elections. And I'll explain that in a bit more detail when we get to it. But for now, it's literally just counting 3 options. We'll be stacking up the papers in 3 piles and counting them. It's as simple as that.
Okay. Thank you, Ciaran. Can I just get the procedural piece out of the way first, and then I will go to tables. You have a colour piece of paper like this. Some people say it's pink, some people say it's purple. I have no idea. So it's this piece of paper. That's where we're asking you, please, to put your name on it if you are willing to, as Ciaran says, act as observers, scrutineers throughout the process during the day. We'll be picking 2 and 2 in reserve, and equally if someone's doing it during the day and they they want to drop out, we can keep drawing on that list. So can I just ask you, please, first of all, if you're interested, please put your name on that. How are we going to collect? We collect them from the tables. We collect them from the tables. We'll go into a drum on the top of the room here, and we'll draw 2 in a couple of minutes. So if you could just do that, please, quick for 2 minutes, and then we'll go back to tables.